Hello?
Hey,
What's going on?
alrighty.
We
I think
got
we're
the we got the worst part.
indeed. All right, so I think we're good to start here, right?
Yeah, let me just close out some of this shit. Give me 1 second.
All right.
All right,
I
I'm
think
good.
we're live, aren't we?
Yep.
Okay. We'll have to get rid of this first part then.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, start her up.
Welcome to Red Sox Beat, powered by CLNS Radio. Another week of Red Sox talk. I'm Jess Thomas. He's Nate Rollins. You can find us on Twitter at CLNS underscore Jess saying for me and at Baseball Rollins for Nate. So you can find all of our CLNS Radio information on clnsradio.com. You can find us on Twitter at www.clnsradio.com/Twitter and on Facebook at www.clnsradio.com/Facebook. And you can also take our survey at clnsradio.com/survey. So there's your social media business out of the way. Make sure to listen to all the CLNS Radio podcasts. There's a bunch of good ones. And continue to listen to us. So what we're going to start with today, Nate, is of course the most hot topic of the week, the Hall of Fame voting. It is in, it is all set. Our 4 Hall of Famers for this year are Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, John Smoltz, and Craig Biggio. Tell me your thoughts on these guys.
Um, Obviously Pedro and Randy Johnson go without saying. These are two of the best pitchers ever to play baseball. Both low two ERAs. They're just absolutely unbelievable. One of the best right-handed and arguably the best left-handed pitcher to ever play. A spot of emphasis I would like to touch on though is Smoltz and Schilling. And Smoltz, I'd just like to run some stats across you. Smoltz is 213 and 155 with a 3.33 ERA in his career. He does have the 150 so saves, but his postseason record's 15 and 4 with a 2.67 ERA, and he got 83% of the vote. Now Schilling, on the other hand, he went 216, which is more wins than Smoltz, 146 losses, which is less than Smoltz, a 3.46 ERA, and he went 11 and 2 with a 2.23 ERA in the postseason, which is also less than Smoltz. And Schilling only received 39% of the vote. I don't understand, and maybe you can help me out with this one. Why the big discrepancy of about 50% between the two? I'm not understanding this.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that Smoltz had 150 saves as well. I think that's the biggest difference because obviously Schilling didn't. He had 22 saves. That's actually a lot more than I thought he would have. But I think that's the biggest difference is just the saves. I don't think it's a big enough difference to give him 82.9% of the vote instead of 39.2. I think that's a little ridiculous. I see what you mean there, but I think overall it's just the saves and well, what Kurt Schilling said. Kurt's a Republican, right? It has to be that.
I think these guys have to look for is because Schilling was a big main factor in that '04 World Series run, and I think something that should go into the minds of the baseball BBWA when they are voting is what has this guy done for his ball club, and Schilling essentially started bringing back baseball in Boston to the level of expectations to World Series, and that obviously being a Red Sox fan, I'm gonna of course I want him to get some more votes, but I don't think gets looked at enough, but certainly about a 49% difference between the two. I just couldn't wrap my fingers around that one.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. It is funny though how Kurt made those comments because I want to read what he said first, but then it's funny because he kind of took it back. So the first thing he said was the fact that the Braves won 14 straight pennants, I think is Swiss Army knife versatility, which is what somebody said yesterday. I think he got a lot of accolades for that. I think he's got a lot of recognition for that. He's a Hall of Famer. The other big thing is I think he's a Democrat. I know there's a Republican that there's some people that really don't like that. So supposedly he was kidding. He said later on, uh, listen to the interview, then shut your pie hole. It was said in jest, you dink, to somebody. So he claims that that wasn't serious, but the problem with Kurt Schilling is he just talks without thinking all the time, and people are going to take what you say seriously, and they obviously took this seriously, and people don't like him as a result of how much he talks, whether he's a Republican or not. It doesn't matter. People don't like people who just talk nonstop and then take stuff back. So I do think his personality has probably cost him some votes, but there's no question that his play should make him in the Hall of Fame because, like you said, 11-2 in the postseason, always brought his big games at the biggest moments, and that's huge, which you can't really look past, but they did.
Yeah, you make a good point. Some of these voters can't put attitudes aside, and that's really disappointing. I mean, this guy's a three-time World Series champion, so nobody will ever take that away from him. So I think he will get into the Hall eventually. Obviously, he's stuck around in the ballot, but I was disappointed.
Yeah, I can see why you would be. It's as a Red Sox fan and being part of the team that made that 2004 World Series, it's obviously a special place in our hearts, but he'll have to wait some more
Yeah,
time and see if he makes it. So
he
we'll,
will have to wait.
we'll see. But let's talk about Pedro because he is he is in the Hall of Fame big time, and he had an unbelievable career with the Red Sox. He got 500 of the 549 votes, which is funny because you'd expect it to be more, but he said that he would just like to have the minimum. He didn't care at all that he didn't get all of the votes and he didn't get more than Randy Johnson. So he doesn't care about that, but he is in the Hall of Fame big time with 91% of the vote, and obviously well deserved. What do you think about Pedro?
Oh yeah, Pedro. Of course, he was well deserved. I'd like to find out who didn't vote for them. Well, I actually know one of the reporters' names, but what was going through their mind not to vote for Pedro? I mean, this is an eight-time All-Star, won a World Series in '04. Three-time Cy Young Award winner. Triple Crown, All-Star Game MVP. AL wins champion, ERA champion. I think it was something five times. He won the strikeout champion of the AL. Three times. This guy was feared when he went out to the mound. There was no batter in the game who wanted to come up and play this guy. Yeah, the Yankees and whatnot, they had good success against him. But, Pedro, in my mind, is if top five right-handed pitcher ever to play in baseball. And, he deserved to be a first ballot.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, what you can't overlook was his 97 to 99, and I was young for that, and you were way young for that. So obviously we don't remember it too clearly. I mean, I started watching baseball in about 2000, 2001, so I kind of missed that, but I've obviously seen plenty of highlights and read plenty about it, and it was one of the best 3-year stretches ever because he was just so dominant with all kinds of strikeouts, an unbelievable record, an amazing ERA. At what we found out was the height of the steroid era, which makes it all the more impressive if you weren't satisfied with it before. There's no way not to be after seeing when he did it, and then just pitching well for the next couple of years, and then winning the World Series with the Red Sox. I mean, that's Hall of Fame worthy right there, as it is. Not even talking about the other 11 years of his career. So there's just no question about it. He's a great pitcher. He had a chip on his shoulder. He was a short guy with a power arm, and he just wanted to win every single game he pitched.
Yep, nobody more deserving than Pedro.
Exactly. Except maybe Randy Johnson, because he got more votes. But
We
not
could
really.
argue that.
Well, no, but let's talk a little about Randy, because he did get the most votes. He got 534 for 97.3%, and he had a heck of a career. He had 303 wins, 329 ERA, and 4,875 strikeouts compared to Pedro's 3,154. So Randy was a strikeout man. So he had an unbelievable career, and he was just such a presence, being 6'10" and being one of the tallest pitchers ever. And he just was a scary pitcher. Nobody wants to face him because he was just so dominant. What do you think about him?
Oh yeah, this guy was an ugly guy. When when you went out to bat against him, you were scared. He obviously had that incident during the game where he hit a bird, killed the bird. He's got some incidents to his credit, but this is a 10-time All-Star, five-time Cy Young Award. I'll just rattle them off. Four-time ERA champion, nine-time strikeout champion. He's got a perfect game, no hitter under his belt. He was a real good left-handed pitcher. I think he came close to 5,000 strikeouts in his career, and that's impressive. Randy Johnson, in my mind, I think he will go in and with the Diamondbacks hat. Hopefully not a Yankees hat, but one of the best left-handed pitchers of his time, and if not ever.
Yeah, it's also possible he could go in with the Mariners. I mean, he pitched 9 years with the Mariners too, so I mean, he was great with everybody he was with. Was the bottom line. Like the stats you said, 5 times Cy Young, 9 times strikeout champion. This guy was so dominant, and only one World Series championship. But when you at least have one World Series and you have the kind of prestigious numbers he had, there's no question that you would be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's second all time in strikeouts behind Nolan Ryan. So it's like he is. When people think of dominant pitchers, they're gonna think he's right up there with them. So he had a long career. He pitched 21 years. So I mean, he's kind of done it all. I can't believe he's 51 years old already. He probably looks even more scary and ugly now. But, but he's a great pitcher. He exemplifies the Hall of Fame just like Pedro does. So no surprise there that they were the top two and first ballot Hall of Famers because there's no reason they shouldn't be. And then we talked a little about Smoltz already, and then the other one was Craig Biggio. This was his third time on the ballot. He got 82.7% of the vote after just missing it by like 0.1% last year. So no surprise that he got it this year. He had over 3,000 hits, almost 300 home runs, and he had over 400 steals. He was a really good player, consistent, solid, just really good numbers. I think he was deserving.
I go with a different tune on Biggio. When I watch baseball and I watch Biggio play, when he got up to bat or when he took the field, I never thought I'd look at him and say, I'm looking at a Hall of Famer. To me, he never really put himself over the top. He was never really that guy that you'd fear in the middle of the order. He had a few good years where he hit above 30 and 30 home runs. No, excuse me, 20 home runs. But he was a career 281 hitter. He stuck around for 20 years. It took him 20 years to get that 3,000 hits. As his career went on, his average dipped from 281 to 264 to 246 to 254, 251. And I look at this guy and I'm like, there was really nothing to me that made him, jump out on paper and like this guy's a Hall of Famer. Obviously the 3,000 hits worked for him, but a career 281 hitter, and it took him 20 years to get 3,000 hits. I don't know as a fact that I consider him a Hall of Famer. I just don't.
Well, I can see why you think that because it did take him quite a while to get all those hits. But I think when they're thinking of Hall of Fame candidates, they think of longevity first of all, and then second of all, the fact that he played his entire career with one team, the Houston Astros, is also quite impressive and doesn't happen a whole lot anymore. But then you look further into his numbers. Yeah, he did take a long time to get his hits, and his average did go down at the end, but he was a 7-time All-Star. He did win 4 Gold Gloves and 5 Silver Sluggers. So he was good defensively, he was good offensively, he played a long time, and he got a lot of hits. I think all those things combined kind of just pushed him over the edge.
Yeah, but his 162 game average, and I'll read you this. He's in 160 games a year, he averaged a 281 average, 17 home runs, and 64 RBIs with 24 steals, and 7 times he was caught stealing. I look at that and I go, that's mediocre stats. I don't know about you, but like I said earlier, I just don't think this guy's a sure bet Hall of Famer like everyone else thinks.
I mean, I can totally see your argument. No question about that. And it's not like he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. It took him a couple times, and he got 7% more than he needed. So it's not like it was like 95% guarantee, no question, which it shouldn't be because, like you said, he's not that good. But I think when you're looking at who he was facing and just all the steroid era guys and everything, I think that all went to his benefit. So I think it was just kind of a perfect storm of everything at the right time and doing just enough to get it. So I see why he got it. I could see why he wouldn't get it. I see both of our arguments, but nothing we can do about it now. It's official, so I can definitely see both sides, but it makes sense to me at least.
Yeah, we'll agree to disagree on this one.
That's fine. I mean, I kind of agree with you, but it's
Don't worry
I'll
about
I'll, I'll keep my part of disagreement just for the
it.
sake of argument. um, so those are your Hall of Famers. Yeah, guys who didn't make it, guys who were close were Mike Piazza, Jeff Bagwell, Tim Raines, Kurt Schilling, like we talked about. Then you get some of the steroids with Clemens and Bonds, and then you got Lee Smith, who's been on it for a long time, Edgar Martinez, Alan Trammell, who's also been on it for a while. So there's lots of guys who were possibilities, but most of these guys didn't even get above 40%. So not a whole lot of chance there. What do you think about Piazza and Bagwell?
Piazza, in my opinion, good. Keep him off the ballot. I still, he was in the heart of the steroid era. He's not to the same extent that Barry Bonds is, and we'll touch on him a little bit later. But, Piazza's iffy. He was a good catcher defensively. He had some pop to his bat. I do think eventually he will get in. And on Bagwell's, Bagwell was a pretty good hitter. Obviously, steroids question mark with him as well. But this guy averaged, I think it is 34 home runs a year in 115 RBIs. Those are some good numbers. And along the lines, if you're gonna put Biggio in, I'd put Bagwell in as well because those Houston lineups of the early 2000s. Bagwell, in my opinion, was arguably a better hitter than Biggio.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from that. They were quite the tandem. I agree. I think that Piazza and Bagwell will both get in eventually. I mean, as long as they're not like 100% like guaranteed they did steroids because there hasn't been any proof yet, even though people are suspicious. I say as long as there's no 100% proof, and I mean, look at their numbers. They got good numbers, and they were closer than anybody else with 69.9% and 55.7. So I think Piazza will definitely get it at some point. Bagwell should get it. I mean, we'll see what happens. He's been on the ballot for 5 years, so it's kind of been a while, but they should get in based on their numbers. I mean, they were very good players at a time where yeah, a lot of guys were juicing. Like Piazza was a 12-time All-Star, so I think I think definitely got to put these guys in. They've over 400 home runs each of them, so it's it's always a question mark. How many guys deserve it? Like how prestigious should the Hall of Fame be? What numbers do you exactly have to have? But I say if you have careers like those two guys had, I think you pretty much have to give them to it at some point.
Yeah, you do. You really do. They stuck around for a while. Those were two guys I'd look at in the lineup, and I'd say, the hitters I don't want to face as a pitcher. So, that being that set aside, you got to put them in. They were one of the best catchers to play and one of the best second basemen to play. So they'll get in.
Yeah, probably so. I want to get your opinion on Edgar Martinez. Do you think he should ever get in?
I do. He was one of the best designated hitters ever. He had a ton of home runs, played on not the best team in Seattle. And, I don't think just because his player is a designated hitter should take anything away. If the power's there, the average are there, the RBIs are there, the hits are there, so be it. You got to let him in. It's not his fault he had to play DH. It was just a good lineup. He was played within Seattle, so I'd put him in definitely. When you got top-notch pitchers, I know Johnson said he didn't like playing Martinez. I heard Clemens once say he didn't like to face Edgar Martinez either. So when you got a couple of the best pitchers ever to play, come out and make statements like that, that just goes to show how good that hitter actually was.
Yeah, it's not fair to just because you're a DH that you shouldn't get in the Hall of Fame. This is not realistic. You can be a DH and be a great player like David Ortiz. We have a great example right here. It's it's not fair just because that's their skill set. If they're like some of the greatest hitters that have played, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't because it's not really fair otherwise. So I'm definitely with you on that. I want to know from you though, man, you're only 17 years old. How do you know so much about baseball from like all this time when you were like 3 years old?
Oh, I started watching baseball. I had a bunch of clips of old games, and I'd watch them all. MLB Network, they do an excellent job with bringing back old games to the time. I'd watch some of them. I'd just sit there and watch them on the internet. And funny as it sounds, some of these old games are on the internet. I've read books. Yeah, I just find my way around to get information about them.
That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've done. Just read a lot of books, research a lot of stuff because, like I said, I didn't start watching until I was like 10. So I mean, I'm 23, so I got a little more time to see stuff. But I'm sure you started watching before I did, and so we obviously have a pretty similar knowledge. I'm just always impressed with the stuff you know from the young ages you were at. But that's where research comes in handy for sure.
Yep. Yes, it does.
So one more thing on Hall of Fame stuff before we move on to other stuff. I read a quote today from Tanyan Sturtz of all people. He was a extremely average pitcher. He pitched for the Yankees at a certain point. I don't even know who else he pitched for because he's so. Well, he pitched for 7 teams over 12 years. So clearly a journeyman. He's 44 years old at this point. He's not even in the league at this point. But he came out with a really interesting comment recently. I'm gonna quote it here. He said, "The Hall of Fame inductees were exactly what everyone thought would be this year, and all deserve it, but we need to be careful. I think this group had some guys and that definitely took something along their career to help their production. And if that's the case, we need to open it up to others who are suspected of the same. We want to be fair, but there are guys with better numbers than these inductees and are getting snubbed because of the same accusations." So basically, Tanny starts to saying that, from what I understand, he's saying that one of the guys, at least one of the guys who were voted this year, took something. Is that how you understand that?
I do understand it that way, and I'd like to touch on that comment. He can make accusations and say, he doesn't know if anyone's clean and stuff like that. But we watch MLB players playing a league right now that you don't know if anyone's clean. The testing's done. You hope players aren't taking anything, but there's so many ways around getting around the steroid testing, and you gotta think players are doing it now. I don't can't look at any player straight and say that guy's not on steroids because it's just so uncertain. You really don't know. You've had some surprises with people get suspended who you're like, this guy was on steroids. This guy hit like 2 home runs ever. So it's really tough to say, but I obviously think he's saying that Bonds and Clemens should get in, and that's ridiculous. These are two guys who cheated the game. If you cheat the game of baseball, in my mind, you don't deserve him to be into the Hall of Fame. This is a Hall of Fame. Why are we putting on somebody on a pedestal who cheated his way to all the home runs, cheated his way to all the wins? Yes, they were still one of the best hitters and pitchers of their time without the steroids, but they took them, they cheated, they got in trouble, and in my opinion, they will be nothing but great players in my mind.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to have guys who were proven to have used enhancements to get better in the game in the Hall of Fame. It just doesn't make sense. And yeah, like you said, there could be other guys who have done it, but if it's not proven, I mean, even Alex Rodriguez was so sneaky about everything he did, and he still got caught eventually. So it's like if you do it so much that it makes that much of a difference, I feel like you're probably gonna get caught at some point. And there's been no proof of any of those four guys who got in that they did any steroids. So for a guy like Tanyan Starts who had like a pretty extremely average career to just come out all of a sudden and say that these guys or some of these guys took something during their career, like who is he to talk about anything?
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of a weird comment, but like I said, you'd like to think players are clean, but I really can't look at anyone. Ryan Braun, Nelson Cruz, Johnny Peralta, Miguel Tejada, Manny. These are just some examples of power hitting guys who were suspended for taking steroids, and it brings to the question, who else is taking steroids? You got a guy like Jose Batista, Stanton, who just come out of nowhere, start to rake. The allegations of steroids come to them, and it takes away from guys just fixing themselves in the off season, coming back better the next year, and I always like to defend the players until they're proven guilty, in my opinion.
Yeah, so do I. I guess it's just, yeah, like Manny Ramirez and Miguel Tejada, people like that, you would never expect to do something like that. But he's just, you never know. I wish there was a way to know, but there really just isn't until they get proven guilty 100%, unfortunately. So, oh well, that'll wrap up our Hall of Fame talk. That was a good chat about the Hall of Fame. So once again, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, John Smoltz, Craig Biggio. Those are your four Hall of Famers this year. Three of them are first balloters, and Biggio is the third time. So a nice class, a real good class, kind of no question about it, and we'll see what happens next year. So before we move to our next segment, just want to remind you guys you're listening to Red Sox Beat on CLNS Radio. I'm Jess Thomas. He's Nate Rollins. Our Twitters can be found. Me, it's at under. I have so much trouble with this. At CLNS _ Jess Sayin, and Nate is at Baseball Rollins. So you can follow us for all kinds of sports news. And I know Nate's into multiple sports. I'm into multiple sports, so you can always check with us for certain things. We like to keep people informed, especially about our baseball stuff here. And I'm definitely big into the basketball. So make sure you follow us and keep up with our shows. And make sure you keep up with all CLNS shows, because CLNS is celebrating 1 million listeners in the 6 years that we've been podcasting about Boston sports. So you can go to www.clnsradio.com/patrons and just help CLNS stay free, and you can get some cool things like a V-neck T-shirt and a travel mug for as little as $1.99 per month. You can check out all the work that everyone's doing at CLNS Radio. Do monthly memorabilia giveaways and have big plans for 2015. So definitely make sure you check out the website and help us out. And also, we just got a new mobile app, which is a big deal, and it's very easy to use. You can see all of the shows in a really convenient location. Pick your favorite shows, and I know I use it all the time. It's a great app to use, and it's basically brand new. So make sure you download CLNS Radio mobile app today and keep up with all your shows. So that leads us into our next segment here, which is just general baseball news that's been going on. I definitely want to start with something I read in the paper today. Daniel Bard, former Red Sox setup man, turned failed starter, turned what the heck happened to him. He completely fell apart. He's looking to make a return into the major leagues, because after he just completely fell apart, they found out he had thoracic outlet syndrome, which is let me read here. It's between your lower neck and upper chest, and it's a grouping of nerves and blood vessels that can get messed up in there. So he had surgery for that, and he now wants to come back. He wants to get signed to a minor league team and try to work his way back in the majors after being out for a number of years. What do you think about Bard?
Yep, Bard's an interesting guy. Obviously wanted to turn a starter, and obviously Bobby Valentine let him turn a starter. I was completely against the move at the time. I thought this guy was the closer of the future. He may have that whatever ridiculous injury you just said, but that's still no reason for his 6.2 ERA in 2012, his 9 ERA in 2013. This guy was just not getting it done as a starter. The Red Sox should have seen and moved him back to a closer, because he was one of the best young, promising relievers coming up in the game. It was him and Natali Feliz at the time, two guys who could reach 100 miles an hour with ease, and, neither of them really panned out. And, it's sad. I wanted to see Bart around for a while, but, why not give him a chance in a minor league deal? If he can pitch his way up, why not? He could really help a team.
Yeah, it's just sad what happened to him, because he was just so good, and I'm refreshing myself here. In 2011, he set the club record for 25 consecutive scoreless innings before, I guess, Koji broke that last year. So, but he had that record at the time, and then once he became a starter, he just was terrible, and then His ERA was always high. He had so many walks, and then they dropped him to AAA, and then he just got worse and worse, and his ERA was up to 7 in the minor leagues, and then he went to AA to start 2013, and then just still couldn't do anything, and then finally he left the Red Sox and went to the Cubs, and then went to the Rangers and tried to pitch for them, and historically, he had 4 appearances for Texas single A team and had a 175.50 ERA, which comes out to 13 runs and 2/3 of an inning. Unbelievable. He didn't even go up a hit, but he had 9 walks and he hit 7 batters. Just that was the absolute low point. He just had no idea how to pitch. So the fact that he got that surgery and now he wants to come back and thinks that he can still give something. He's only 29 years old, so he's got time to figure it out and come back. So I think it's great for if he gets a shot to try again.
Yep, he should get a shot. We're giving some of these Cuban guys and these Japanese guys, these mega contracts. It's always nice to see when you have a guy who's struggled in the past. Taking a year off. It's always nice to have teams welcome him back into the league and ultimately give him that shot because he deserves it. Why not give him the shot?
Exactly. He was such a good pitcher before everything happened. So it'd be interesting to see if he has any chance of even if he became like half or 3/4 of the pitcher he once was, he'll still be pretty good. So I think it's good he's trying to come back, and we'll have to see if he ends up getting a shot. So more news. The Red Sox have basically kind of agreed to the fact that they're not willing to give up prospects like Mookie Betts and Blake Swihart for Cole Hamels because the Phillies just want so much for him, and they always have, and that's why they still have him at the moment. So the Sox aren't willing to give those guys up. I think that's a great decision. I don't think he's worth it. What do you think?
Yeah, it is a great decision. And when I knew Lester's contract was getting up a few years ago, obviously before they traded him, I said, we can't just let John Lester go and then go out and trade prospects for a guy like Cole Hamels because doing that, you're emptying the farm system, you're pretty much gutting the farm system, and essentially Mookie Betts could play an important role on this team down the future, injury-wise, contract-wise, if the Red Sox end up having to make a trade, you got to keep Mookie Betts around. Mookie Betts is a one-in-a-lifetime player. I love the kid. I think he's going to be great. And I think including him in the deal for Hamels would just be a disappointment. Obviously, Swihart, one of the promising catching prospects in the game, maybe a first baseman when he comes up, maybe a catcher. We don't know. Another guy I like to keep around. Obviously, Henry Owens. I wouldn't trade him for Hamels at this point. I think Henry Owens is going to be a midseason call-up, and he could serve an important role for this team. But I'm still trying to get Max Scherzer on this team. Haven't had much success as of late, but I think Max Scherzer would fit perfect.
Yeah, probably better than Hamels. Hamels the lefty, that's good, but it's just he's 31 years old and giving up two 22-year-olds who have bright futures ahead of them. It just doesn't make sense for a 31-year-old guy that the team's looking to ask too much for. So I think they should just stay away from that. I've always thought that there's no question he's a good pitcher, but I don't think it's worth it. So keep with that, Red Sox. Keep away from him. We don't want to see him here. Taking it a little further with more free agencies, James Shields still not signed. He got that mystery contract, and still haven't seen a whole lot about it. Nothing seems to be happening. I think teams are worried about his durability because he's thrown so many innings, and the fact that he's 33 years old. I don't think people want to commit to him for 5 years, except for that one team. But I don't know what's happened with that. But it seems like most teams don't want him for more than 3 years. What do you think is going to happen to him?
Yeah, I do think he will get a 3 or 4 year deal. Obviously, he wants 110 million. I think it is for 5 years. With that low to high 5 ERA in the postseason, I just can't give it to him. I'd love to give it to him. I obviously have said before, I don't think he's an ace. I think he would do a great job in complementing Porcello. Two guys I think are very similar, very similar build, very similar stats. But, if you're a small market team and you want to compete again, like a Pitt, like a Miami, they're going to give him the money. So I think he will get the money from a small market team. Obviously, if he's going to go to a St. Louis or a St. Louis, obviously the Giants pulled out, but maybe the Brewers or something like that. I think they're more conservative and would give him a 3-year deal.
Yeah, I don't think you can expect much more than 3 or 4 years because his age and his lack of success in the playoffs. So I'll be very intrigued to see where he eventually does sign because it's been much quieter than I think a lot of people expected. And in terms of another deal, it happened very recently. The A's traded for Ben Zobrist and Yunel Escobar and got rid of John Jaso and a couple of picks. So the whole offseason, the A's have been getting rid of players. Now finally they get a couple solid players, and in Zobrist and Escobar, you think it was a good move for them?
Yeah, I do think it was a good move for the A's. They're obviously trying to build a team that fans are going to want to come out and see. Billy Bean's not giving much money down there in Oakland, so not much he can do. He's kind of go to be creative with the money, and just try and bring these guys in on expiring contracts and low deals, and put together the most competitive team he can. Good deal for the Rays. They get back a couple nice prospects. Jaso going back to Tampa can really help them at catcher and first base. Tampa wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. They're obviously going to build that team around the pitching of Matt Moore, Cobb, and them. So, it was a good deal for both teams, and I think, it puts the A's back in a little bit more contention and maybe for a wild card spot. But I don't see them going anywhere besides that.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I saw a tweet from Evan Longoria. I think it was yesterday. I don't remember exactly what it said, but he said something about Rays Nation, be patient with us or something. So clearly they're going in the opposite direction, and getting rid of Zobrist and Escobar makes that even more the case because Zobrist is an all-star level player who's had a pretty consistent career. So that's that trade. So before we go into our next segment, I just want to let you guys uh, in on a little thing here that's going on with the Celtics. Larry H. Russell, the Celtics beat executive producer, is now an author. He came out with a book last week called How Bad Luck, Bad Decisions Brought the Mighty Celtics Empire to Its Knees and Ushered in the Dark Ages. It is now officially out. You can head over to clnsradio.com and check it out. He has exclusive interviews from management, players, media, and fans. He goes into the big dark ages between the 1986 season and with the deaths of Len Bias and Reggie Lewis and how bad the team was there in the 90s up until the championship of 2008. So it's sure to be a good read. Make sure you guys check it out. I've heard a lot of good news about it. So just want to make you guys aware of that book before we jump into our next segment here and our final segment to take us to the last 20 minutes here. It's a little game we're gonna play, and I'm looking forward to it. We got a lot of people to cover here. We're gonna do a over/under segment of current Red Sox players and what some certain stats for certain players, and to see if me and Nate think that they're gonna have better than a certain number or worse than a certain number. So I've got it all lined up here, Nate. So let's get it going. I want to start with David Ortiz, and my first category for you is: will David Ortiz get over or under 30 home runs this season?
I say even. I think he hits exactly 30 home runs. He's in a very good lineup, and he's gonna be influenced by some of these guys. Hanley Ramirez, Sandoval, Pedroia. Puts in the work every day in and day out. They're not gonna quit on this team. Halfway through the season, if they, if they're down in the standings, if they have to retool, rebuild for next year. But I think he's gonna be right at 30.
That's fair enough. I'm gonna pick 27. I think he's going to have a little bit under it. He is 39 years old. I don't think he's going to drop off much, but since the Red Sox have a pretty decent amount of solid hitters, I think he won't feel as much need to hit so many home runs, but he'll still do his thing and get close to 30, so I'm going with 27 on that. Now, before we run away from David Ortiz, I want you to give me the over-under on 135 games for Ortiz.
I'd say over. This is a guy who's played over 135 games. 4 of the last 5 seasons, obviously in 2012 when he got hurt, multiple injuries. But I think he's over 135. This is a guy, DHing, not too much stress on him. Obviously playing maybe a little bit of first and interleague play, but I'd say over.
Yeah, I don't see why not. He's a pretty durable guy, and yeah, like you said, he has played over 135 in last four of the last actually 5 out of the last 6 years, every year but 2012 where he played 90. So I don't see any reason for that to change. So I agree with over on that. Okay, moving on. We'll go to a pitcher now. I got Clay Buchholz for you, and I want your over under on 23 starts for Clay.
I would say under. This is just a guy I have come not to be able to count on. I love him when he's doing good, but even when he's doing good, he's getting injured, whether it be the neck, the finger. It just seems like always something with Clay Buchholz, and especially if this team is doing poor down the stretch, this guy's not going to want to be on the mound. I'd say under 23.
All right, I'm gonna say over. I can see where you're coming from and looking at his numbers here. He kind of does an every other thing. He had 28 starts in 2010, and then he had 14 in 2011, and then 29 in 2012, 16 in 2013, and 28 in 14. So if things go as planned, it will be somewhere in the teens again. But I think he'll finally figure out how to stay healthy, and I think he'll start more games. I think he's got 27 or 26 or 27 starts in him. So I'm gonna go over on that.
I
Uh,
hope so.
yeah, it would be the best. So for Buchholz, in terms of ERA, over under 3.20. What do you say?
I'd have to say over. That's setting the bar pretty low for Buckholz. He's really only dipped below that maybe 2 of his years, 3 actually. Obviously not starting 25 or so games in those years, but I've got to think if he's going to be out there for 23 starts, his ERA is going to be up there. He's just not the guy I look at. He doesn't keep the ball on the ground. He gives up a lot of home runs, gives up a lot of runs, gives up a lot of walks. Like I said, he's not a durable guy. He's going to be going against Toronto. He's going to be going against New York's lineup's going to be there. I just don't see where you're coming up with that number, so I'd have to go with over.
Yep, I totally agree. I pick over as well. His career ERA is 3.92. It's He had the 1 year in 2013 with a 174 ERA and just 16 starts. But if he is going to pitch like almost or a full season, like I hope he does, I don't see his ERA being under that. I hope it would be under 4, but I think 320 would be pushing it a little bit too far. So I'm going to go over on that one as well and agree with you there. All right, moving on to our next guy. I think I got a really interesting one for you here. We're going to go with Jackie Bradley Jr., and I want you to give me the over-under on if he is going to play 30 games in the majors.
I would say under because I look at the Red Sox team right now and I look at their depth chart. Betts, Craig. I'd even put Holt, Bentz. Nava. These are all outfielders who are ahead of Jack Bradley Jr. in the depth chart. So I don't really see where he's going to get much action at the major league level. I could be wrong. I'm not seeing. I obviously can't see injuries at this point, but I would say Bradley Jr. spends 99% of his season down in AAA.
Yep, totally agree with you. I don't. We have so much outfield depth, and like you said, there could be injuries we don't know. But I mean, I don't. I see him being in the minors or going to a different team. I was saying 30 games in the majors, which obviously you got with the Red Sox, not with anybody, because obviously they could get rid of him. But I think he'll spend a lot of time in the minors, and maybe he'll play 15 or 20 games if people get injured or they give him a chance or whatever. But I don't see more than 30, so I'm going under on that as well. And my other number for Jackie Bradley Jr. for you, over under 1 home run.
Ah, I would have to go with under. Like I said earlier, if this is for the major leagues, I don't see where he's going to get much playing time. He's been a disappointment. He was the 40th overall pick in the amateur draft in 2011. The Sox had such high hopes for this guy. Really hasn't panned out. His defense has been there, but if you just offer defense to the table, there's just not 2 spots in the lineup. We got Vasquez for that, so I'd have to say under.
I'm gonna go even on this because I think maybe if he plays like 15 or 20 games, maybe he'll crank one out. I'm not sold on that, but no more than 1 home run because he's not a power hitter and he probably won't play much. So that was kind of a fun little add-in just to talk about and banter about because clearly he's probably not going to have a whole lot of impact on the team this year, but it's still fun to talk about. So that's Jackie Bradley Jr. for you. Now we'll move to a pitcher. I got Joe Kelly for you. Over under 12 wins for Joe Kelly.
Over. I love this guy. This I look at him and he's just like a competitor. He's an Irishman. He's fits right in with the Red Sox. Last year, he was one of the guys who wasn't giving up. He pitched to I think it was a high 3 ERA maybe or middle 3. I don't have that number up in front of me, but I think this guy's going to be really good. I think he's going to pitch his way into a 2 or 3. I think he's going to be that good. I'm looking for a big year out of Joe Kelly. I'm saying 17 wins.
Wow. All right,
I'm
17
going
wins.
that high.
Hey, that's cool. I mean, his career high is 10, so that would be quite a jump for him. He has 21 wins in his career. His career ERA is 3.41, which is pretty solid. So I think you're definitely shooting high there. I'm not quite as sold on him. I'm going to go with under, and I'm going to say 11 wins, which I think is still respectable. It's still pretty good for a number 3 starter. It would still be his career high. So I'm not quite as sold on him. I would love to see that. I would love to see 17 wins. That would be so huge, and then you would have a pretty solid pitcher for a 26-year-old. So he's one of the most intriguing guys for me. I'm looking forward to him, but we'll disagree on that. You're going 17. I'm going 11. So my next question about Joe Kelly is over under 150 innings.
The innings is touchy, injuries and obviously that, but I am saying I'm going to go with over. I know he's never in his career came close to that, but, I think this guy, shoulder injury aside, I think his shoulder's fine. I think he's going to go over that. I think he's going to stay relative healthy this season. Starts, I see him skipping. When he needs an extra day of rest, maybe getting pushed back. But other than that, I think this kid's going to rear back, and I think this kid's going to have a hell of a season. The potential's there. He was a high draft pick. He put it all together in 2013. Middle of the pack 2 ERA. That was his best season ever. So I think this kid's going to have a phenomenal year. And like I said, I think my over number for him is I think he's going to go 17-8. And I think his ERA is going to be 3.15 with approximately 204 innings pitched. Those are my stats for that guy.
Wow. All right. Glad I asked you about him. I'm going to go over as well. I think he'll get over 150. His career high is 124. So he hasn't gotten too close to that, but not too far away. So I think he'll probably get like 160 is my guess. So I'm definitely undershooting him a little bit, but still career highs and stuff. You're going big time for Joe Kelly. So I like the disagreement on that, and we'll definitely come back to that in the future and see what he ended up doing, because it could be a big year for Joe Kelly. We both think it will be a big year, just difference on how big. Now let's move to one of my most intriguing offensive players. Let's talk a little Dustin Pedroia, and I want your over/under on 90 RBI for Dustin.
I'd say a little under 90 RBIs. I think he's going to be inserted back in that 2 hole. I just look at him as a guy that's just going to get on base for the meat of that order. So I'd say under 90 RBIs.
All right, I'm gonna go over on this. I'm thinking somewhere like 95. I think he's gonna have a breakout year. I think he'll finally be healthy, and even though he'll probably be hitting 2, I think he'll have a lot of opportunities with guys on base, and I think he'll drive a lot of them in. So I'm looking for 95 for him for this year. My next stat for you for Pedroia is over under 320 batting average.
I would say a little under 320. I'm expecting a big year out of Pedroia as well. Career 299 hitter. I'd say he's going to hit roughly around 310, 315, but in the ballpark of 320.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that. I was also thinking about 310, so I'll go a little under too. But if he gets 310 and has 95 RBI, I'm gonna be a happy guy, because that'd be a great season. I'm gonna give one extra here on Pedroia just because I love Pedroia. I'm gonna give you one extra over under 2 errors.
I would say even at 2 hours. This guy's a phenomenal fielder. Multi-time Gold Glove Award winner. I think he's the best second baseman in baseball. People will disagree with me. I'd take Altuve. Slightly under him. I don't think Cano's even mixed with those two, but we'll get to that another day. But Pedroia, I would say even at 2 hours. That's what I'd go with.
All right, I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna say 1. I think he's gonna have a fantastic year as he always does, and it's always risky at second base because occasionally things happen where you don't have a lot of control over the error that happens. So That could always be anything, but I'm gonna go with one. I'm gonna be bold and say one. Big year for Pedroia. I'm looking forward to it. Now my next one here, going to another pitcher. This one is definitely a toss-up, and I'm very excited to see what you say about this. We're gonna head to Koji Uehara, and I want to hear your over/under for 25 saves for Koji.
Whew, this is an interesting one. Uehara has been really tough to gauge as of late. Obviously it was phenomenal during the World Series run. Um, yeah, 25 saves. I would have to say I'm gonna go with over. I think Koji's gonna regain his form. We obviously know he's just not that bad of a pitcher he was showing last year. I do think he's on a tightrope. I think Mujica's waiting in the wings. Mujica finished the season strong, but I'm gonna go over. I think he's gonna regain his form.
All right, fair enough. I'm gonna go even actually. I think he will get about exactly 25. I think that's a pretty safe bet for him. Um, he doesn't seem to get as many save opportunities as some other pitchers for some reason, but so I don't think it's going to be like a ton. I don't think he's going to go like 35 or 40 or anything. So I think 25 is a safe bet. I like that for him. My other stat for you for Koji, over under 2.00 ERA.
Oof, I'd say he's over just slightly. That's setting the bar pretty low for this guy. He's not a spring chicken. He's 39 years old. He's getting up there in his career. We've seen his ERA go up a little bit last year, but I'm gonna say slightly over 2 ERA, but I'm gonna say he has a phenomenal year.
Well, yeah, if he gets 25 saves and just under two, that's definitely a phenomenal year. I'm gonna go under actually. I'm gonna say about 180 or so. I think that he's gonna have a real good year. I think this guy just seems to defy age, and I think he'll be looking to kind of get some revenge from the rough period he had at the end of last year. I think he'll be strong. I think he'll be healthy. He'll be rested. So I'm looking at 25 saves and a 180 ERA for Koji. Now my next one here is Hanley Ramirez. We're going to start in the field. I want your over under 13 errors for Hanley Ramirez.
Oh, I'd say under 13 errors. It's going to be pretty tough to make 13 errors in left field. The Green Monster can cause a lot of havoc for outfielders. We've seen it with Manny. We've seen it with Jason Bay. But I'd say under 13 errors. There's no way this guy's going to be that bad in the outfield. If not, he's going to be moved somewhere else because the Sox quite frankly, cannot afford 13 errors from the left field position.
Yeah, they really can't. I know I went a little high with that in my original thing. I know he has a lot of errors for his career in the infield, and it is more difficult to get outfield errors. But I agree with under, but I think he'll probably have like 9 or 10. I'm not sold on his fielding yet. He's never played left field before, so he might have a rough start. Definitely 13's high, but I wouldn't be surprised with 9 or 10. And they may need to switch his position. I mean, maybe somewhere better than left field, but that one's definitely intriguing for me to see how many errors he does get out there. And then on the offensive side for Hanley Ramirez, over under 20 home runs.
I'd say over. The Fenway is a relatively small park. I think he's going to poke a lot of balls out to right field. I think he's going to take advantage of that Green Monster. He's going to have a lot of doubles. He's going to have a lot of home runs, in my opinion. For home run wise for Hanley, I'd say, he's going to give us around what Cespedes gave us. I think he's going to hit right around 27 home runs, and he's going to drive in 100 plus RBIs, in my opinion.
All right, fair enough. Big year from Hanley Ramirez. I'm going to go under. I'm going to say 17. So a lot of errors, decent amount of home runs. That's what I'm going for Hanley. But I would love it if he had 27 and 100. That would be gorgeous. That would be a lot from him, which would really make that contract they gave him much more worth it. So we'll see what happens with that. We got a couple more minutes here. I'm gonna shorten this over under block and just do one category for a couple of guys. Kind of do like a little speed round here in the last minute or two. So Rick Porcello, over under 17 wins.
Under 15.
15. Okay, I'm gonna go under and say 14. Xander Bogaerts, over under 310 average.
Under 300.
Okay, I'm gonna say big year for Xander, over 315.
Woo!
We'll see. Junichi Tazawa, over under 70 games.
I'd say over.
Yeah, he's been right over. He's been at 71 the last 2 years. I'm going to go under. I'm going to say 63. I think he's going to get a little less work this year and not get so tired out. Here's the big one. Alan Craig, 45 games, over under.
I'd say over. I think Victorino's going to get hurt, so I'd say over, maybe in the hundreds.
All right, I'm gonna say over two. I'm not gonna say that high. I'm gonna say 65. I don't have a lot of faith in Alan Craig yet. Justin Masterson, over under 8 wins.
I'd say even 8.
Fair enough. I'm gonna say over 10. Pablo Sandoval, over under 12 errors.
I'm going to go even again with Sandoval. He's a pretty good third baseman, and I think 12 errors is pretty good at third base, in my opinion.
All right, fair enough. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna say 9. All right, that wraps up our show here. Thanks, Nate, for joining me again. It was another great show on Red Sox Beat. That was a lot of fun. So make sure you go to CLNS Radio and check out the Garden Report. Jared Weiss for all the Celtics news after all the home games, interviews, locker room information. So I want to thank you guys again for listening to Red Sox Beat on CLNS Radio, and I hope you have a wonderful week.